The world of Io, prehistory of the events on Flea. The world of Io. The year is 1032. Servus Rex ascends to the throne of men as the new king. Humanity and being human is defined as a strength in the great empire. Great power through military strength, tight traditions, and leadership. Everything that is not of human origin is declared impure. Only those beings of human origin embody the symbol of absolute perfection, conceived by the gods. People consider themselves to be the strongest of all races, because although they are mostly inferior to other races in intellect as well as in physical condition, people managed to scatter over the world of Io and continue to exist. Auspicity, cohesion, honor, sense of duty. It is all those things that have kept people alive. The often warlike people have existed for several thousand years now. And although this race has found itself many times before threats, they have always managed to adapt to the circumstances over the millennia and to assert themselves against any external internal danger. At the height of his power and hubris, the head of the empire, the king of men, Servus Rex, decided that the empire must henceforth be omnipresent. The empire as the sole governing body over all of Io. A delusion of grandeur. The whole known world should be subservient to the voice of the king, and every race must bow to the semi-divine king chosen by the gods. Servus Rex was determined. His world should be the law that unites the world Io and all the people of the world. So he wrote a proclamation and sent his order to all the princes, chiefs of tribes, kings, vassals, and leaders of the known world. But that's not all. So Servus Rex was also looking for ways to make his spirit imperishable in this world. He was looking for a way to cheat death. Servus Rex wanted to remain the head of the empire forever. He instructed teachers, magicians, researchers, and every herbalist, no matter how small, to look for a way and a solution how he could live forever. Greed spread through him. It swelled in him, and it grew in him with each passing day of his reign. He was infatuated with elevating himself as a godlike being, immortal, exalted above all life in the world. Days passed, weeks, months, finally whole years. No one was able to give such a gift to the king, except for one. A necromancer from the Shadowlands asked for an audience with the High King. Hours passed, during which the necromancer told the king all sorts of things about life and death, how both the one and the other are only a transition between two worlds. Worlds which there are laws of nature that are known as given in the world of Io. But what if there was another one between the worlds? What if this world became blurred with the known worlds? What kind of new realities would be created? What laws of nature would be overridden? That would mean a whole new reality. The king began to understand. The hour of the necromancers from the Shadowlands had thus struck. From then on, these black magicians spent countless hours working on their experiments in the inner circles of the empire. Meticulously, they studied the human being, conducted experiments on behalf of the crown. Dark, bloody, at the same time demonic path taken by the necromancers also became a strong arm of the empire. Because whenever it came to expanding or defending the fronts for the empire, these black magicians came and did their terrible work. Necromancy, the dark magic between life and death. The secret of eternal life was to lie dormant in it. The key to it seemed within reach. Servus Rex, blinded by greed, ignored the dark art of necromancy. He was only obsessed with seeing his desire for eternal life fulfilled. Every day he saw himself surrounded by the necromancers of the Shadowlands. They stood by the king with their advice and also supported him in his campaigns against lower races. So came what had to come. War was a constant companion of the reign of Cerberus Rex. But this time, a war broke out that would change the world to come forever. The necromancers studied books and explored the knowledge of life and death. Any form of death magic requires a carnal sacrifice. In order to be able to work death magic, life is needed. And if you wanted to blind this magic and transform it into an even stronger form of magic, you need ancient artifacts, relics from days long gone, objects, beings, otherworldly things of pure power, which when combined could ignite a ritual that could defy the world of mortals and the living. According to legend, one of these relics was deeply hidden and protected in a distant, isolated enclave of the dwarves. And they had sworn to defend this artifact with their lives. The Empire, in utter arrogance, sent an emissary to the island of Flea, because there was the dwarven enclave called Krakdal in the dwarf language. As the greatest power in this world, the Empire then demanded that the dwarves hand over the artifact or otherwise have to answer for the consequences of their actions. The dwarves, in their proud and stubborn manner, decided against any demand of the Empire and left the demand unanswered, and the emissary left in peace. Exactly 1 month passed before the first ships of the Empire reached the west coast of Flea and established a beachhead there. The 19th Royal Legion under Bertram Sturmwasser, 20,000 infantry and 6,000 cavalrymen were stationed on the island. But not only men, horses and war machines were sent to the island. Merchants, boat builders, fishermen, craftsmen, healers, cattle farmers, blacksmiths, and other entourage also came to take care of the logistics and maintenance of the army. Most of the soldiers had livestock at their disposal, both for milk and meat. The sight of the sheer number of cattle quickly gave the outpost a name, Oxwatch. Oxwatch quickly grew into the first small bastion of the Empire on the island. The location quickly developed into a respectable outpost. The days that followed, the Empire sent some patrols to the north and east of the island. In the north, the Empire quickly reached the boundaries of the mountains, the Sky Peak. At the tip of the island, they then established another outpost. His task was to defend the left flank of Oxwatch and to keep an eye out if the dwarves approached over the mountains. In the east of the island, the troops of the Empire quickly passed the Crystal Lake and then saw each other directly on the east coast of the island. The Empire knew that there was only a piece of forest between them and the dwarf kingdom of Krakdal. Accordingly, they decided to raise another outpost there as well. But then to reinforce it with palisades in order to take up a defensive position there. The trees of the Wonder Forest have been felled. The forest was cleared and built with the building material, wooden palisades and defensive skewers. In the middle of the outpost, the stonemasons quickly began to build a citadel. It was from there that the attack on the Wonder Forest and adjacent Krakdal was to be planned. The Empire's army, camped to the east, was unceremoniously called Eastwatch. In the middle of the quickly built fortress, the soldiers set up their tents. The tent city around the citadel was built very quickly. The horses rested at the Crystal Lake and drank the clear spring water of the mountain. The cavalrymen set up camp very close to the lake. Bertram Sturmwasser, veteran of many battles and high-ranking general of the Empire, did not want to lose any time with this campaign, so he incited his men and demanded the utmost discipline from them and prepared the men for a bloodthirsty battle without mercy. Those who do not bow to the will of the Empire do not deserve to live and must be wiped out. The men rejoiced and were ready to lay down their lives for the Empire and the service of a higher cause. The morning dawned over the mountain slopes of the Sky Peak, and the horns of war rang out in the valleys of the mountain. The time of the offensive had come. South of the Wonder Forest, the soldiers continued their way towards the mountain. When they found themselves in the heart of the forest, they saw the darkness that fell upon them. The sky darkened. Dark, huge shadows wandered over the treetops of the forest. Even before the men could panic, fire rained through the treetops of the Wonder Forest. Everything carnal began to burn, and the trees also began to burn in the inferno of flames. Burst after burst of fire rained down on the people. Amid all the chaos, people quickly realized that this could only be the work of a powerful dragon. And after the dragon had presented his flaming spectacle, he went down into a clearing of the forest. He screamed, spread his wings, and fought like a wild beast does. Mighty claws uprooted the trees, and the dragon threw people through the air like small pebbles. The courage and bravery of the people was lost that day. Everyone saved themselves as they could, and so they all ran out of the forest, panicked and only anxious to bring their own lives to safety. But Bertram Sturmwasser reunited them. He gathered the fugitives and encouraged them. On the front line, he manned his steed, pulled out the legendary family sword of the Stormwater family, and his horse reared up. "Forward, men! For the Empire!" His armored horsemen did the same, and the cavalry began to ride slowly into the forest and towards the clouds of black smoke. The burning forest, with all its now charred black trees, sank into thick clouds of smoke that made it difficult to breathe. It drove a burning sensation into the man's eyes and made a view almost impossible. After a while of advancing, the man suddenly heard the battle cries. "Tractor!" They were dwarfs. Armed up to the armpits, heavy plate armor, armed with their traditional warhammers and axes, the dwarfs attacked out of the smoke. Completely surprised, Bertram goaded his men one last time. It is said that he rode ahead into battle, followed by only a few of his followers. The battle raged on the black scorched soil of the forest. The turmoil was short and violent, and the dwarfs, determined to defend their homeland from the invaders, fought their way into a rage. They showed no consideration and no mercy that day. As the day passed, it became clear to everyone the once proud 90th Royal Legion was no more. The remaining troops of the reserve in Eastwatch left the fortress behind when the dragon began to breathe fire there as well. The defeat of the people was clear that day. They began to retreat and regrouped in a defensive position in Oxwatch. There was no new attack by the dwarves or the dragon that day. Service Rex, so enraged by the news of the defeat, did not wait long for an answer. Under royal orders, he gave an order to the chief necromancer Kardush to visit the island as soon as possible and help the Empire to victory. Not much time passed before the Dark Magician reached the west coast of the island. Kardush gathered the rest of his Empire's troops. Together, they made up their way towards Eastwatch to regain their footing. Darkness spread around the outpost. At night it flashed bright and greenish above the clouds. Cavalrymen's horses snorted with their eyes wide open, becoming increasingly restless. And it wasn't just the horses who were frightened. Even the remaining troops of the Empire were afraid of this whole scenery. Death magic must be paid for with life. A poisonous cloud spread throughout the outpost, and anyone who stepped into the fog of this cloud paid for it with their lives. Kardush abused the lives of the remaining men capable of fighting for his dark magic. And it was through this death toll that the already deceased, decaying warriors of the Empire rose up. The 19th Legion became a legion of the undead. Without reason, these newly raised corpses walking, scraping in the direction of the burned forest. That forest, which from then on was to be called only as the Forest of the Dead, due to the horrific sight and work of the necromancer's death magic. The undead represented a superior force for the warriors of the dwarves, who were now forced to retreat further and further into the mountain. When there was almost no hope left, a magical event occurred that has not yet been fully explained. A bang of unbelievable proportions shook the island of Flea, and a short time later a sphere spread out which ended in a magical barrier. Crocodile, the Death Forest, and Eastwatch were henceforth trapped in the barrier, and all wickedness remained locked in this magical vault. The Empire did not achieve its goal, the barrier remained. And 60 years later today, this barrier still exists. What remains are the memories and stories of the inhabitants of the islands of Flea. What events do you think will happen on the island in the future?